It's amazing what you can come up with as an artist when facing limitations like finances and resources. But for filmmaker Tyler Wayne, he wanted to make a movie that seemed familiar, that pulls from what you might seen have worked before, but was like anything else you've ever seen on a screen.
Hey, kiddo. Did you write that? I love it. Good night, butterfly.
We searched his entire place. We didn't find anything.
I understand what you're going through, but finding your daughter's killer is my job.
After you. Is this enough for a month? Split all ends up, and they shall not crack. Take a look. It's the guy who killed Mia. I need you to get me a gun tie. Just like we're paying, right?
He's out.
Remember me, Mr. Granger?
You can't bring her back to me.
Tell me what I want to know! He's gonna break. I know it. This is sick.
I really hope you haven't been doing anything stupid.
You have the wrong man. Shoot.
I had nothing to do with what happened to Mia.
And for Tyler's vision, that lean fell heavy onto the shoulders of lead actor Adam Donshik. In talking to both of them, it's an opportunity they both welcomed and wanted to carry. This is the story they wanted to tell, and the way they wanted to tell it. As we say hello to Tyler and Adam, and turn the spotlight on Goodbye, Butterfly. With a film like this, you have to follow some kind of logic, right? You have to have some kind of, this is going to be what this is going to be here to this, to this, to this. But at the same time, you're trying with the stylistic approach that you have, trying to weave an intricate puzzle in there. And I'm kind of curious from your perspective, was it something that you were looking at with pacing or tone, or was it dialogue? How did you feel like you were setting the opportunity to do this nice little weave job that you did?
Definitely more pacing and tone. That's, especially when you're writing it, that's really, like you said, you have to follow certain structures, and you have to follow, certain expectations. You have to follow certain ones you want to subvert. But regardless of how you do it, certain things have to happen at certain times, and it has to flow a certain way. So yeah, you're really kind of playing with the pacing of things. You're really kind of playing with the tone of things, and you end up cheating certain timelines and certain things. I remember there's a scene like where I knock Andy out, and then like me and Adam carry him into the basement. And like if you watch the footage, like Andy's actually like, "Am I really out for this long?" I'm like, "Yeah, not really, but we'll assume people will buy
it." That's funny.
It's the magic of filmmaking.
Yeah, and for you, Adam, I have to imagine this was pretty luscious to grab a hold of and take part in, and you are virtually in nearly almost every scene from the word go. And so for you and your process, knowing that Tyler was trying to achieve some kind of pacing, and you have these emotions that you're carrying through this entire film, talk a little bit about your process in dealing with that and figuring that out.
I think I was looking at it sort of in its totality. When I was working on the script, I really wanted to figure out how to stitched together one moment to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And short of creating a flowchart, I spent a lot of time with the script, going over it, not just to learn the lines, but to understand that emotional arc. The difficulty is when you're shooting, especially on a abbreviated timeline like we were, it was like 17 days. You're not going to do anything in order. You're never going to do anything in order.
Right.
It's very rare that you do that anyway. So you really need to know the script. You really need to know what beat follows what beat follows what beat, and then just pray to whatever Holy Spirit you're, abiding by, that when you're in the moment, you're able to remember what you did and that your homework is there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they say action, you just let it go, and you trust that you've done what you needed to do.
I'm curious, Tyler, from when you brought Adam on board, what did he give to the role that wasn't there on the script?
I can tell you what he didn't bring was hair. I had always
No, that's not true. I had facial hair.
Envisioned Ryan with just this big, luxurious mane of like man-fro, and then you get in the casting room with Adam and you just go, well, I guess this is a movie about a different guy now.
The reality is he had to wear sunglasses because I was blinding him with this dome.
No, you always put as much as you can on the page, but then you really rely on finding the right actor for the role to really bring it to life. Otherwise, there's always going to be little human moments and stuff that either you put in there and don't necessarily work, or that you didn't put in there and that the actor has to find. So you really, it's really this sort of delicate balancing act where you have to find the right actor and really trust that they're going to, be the perfect person for this, which, obviously like Adam was. And, it's especially like he was saying, when you have such an abbreviated timeline, such a compact shooting schedule, like you don't have time to pull actors aside and have a discussion with them about like, okay, so this scene, we're doing this. It's like, I'm over there trying to set things up, and as soon as we go, you just got to go, and you really have to trust that your actors are going to be there and know exactly what to do. I
mean, for a good portion of this film, Adam, you're pretty much on your own. There's scenes where you interact a lot with characters, but there's a lot of scenes when you're just you and you're just there. And I'm curious, when you get that interaction with other characters, were you clamoring for that? Was that kind of nice to have to work off of as an actor?
It was. Look, I'm a solitary individual as is. I mean, you wouldn't know that with my, 2 kids, my wife, my 3 dogs. For me, it was, I was okay with where I was by myself. But when you introduce the other actors, then all of a sudden you get that exchange and you get that energy exchange, not just the words. And I think that it helps with the performance to bring it to another level, because now I've got somebody to work off of. The best example is the beginning of the movie with Addison, the little girl who, I swear to God, she's going to be the biggest star that comes out of all of us.
So funny you say that. I was just going to mention that.
She's amazing. And the old adage, never work with animals or kids. Yeah, because they're better than you, always.
So are you having fun being in this movie?
Yes.
So what have you done so far in this movie?
You guys got to get in here with the camera, right?
Boxing gloves.
Boxing glove. Are you going to be a big star one day?
Yeah.
Come around the corners and I should say like, what's going on? And then everybody looks on. It's going to come from there.
Oh, let me take off the camera back.
Well, come on then, gorilla. Come on then, gorilla. We in Manila. Come on then, gorilla. This is a thriller. Come on. Come on. Get him. Get him.
you doing?
It was Ryan's idea. What? Not me. Was not me.
You know, I had to be on my toes with her because she's just full of instinct and she's full of life, and everything that she did was just real and right there and present. And, you know, it was such a joy. And, you know, that's just a great example of it. You know, the scenes I did with Marie, the scenes I did with Jennifer, the scenes I did with Tyler, Andy, you know, they all brought something different out of me. And I think that this movie couldn't be the movie that it is if you didn't establish very early that relationship with the daughter. And she really helped bring that for me.
There's two things that really struck me in this movie that really sell it really well. The first thing is the depth of field and the idea that a lot of things are focused and out of focus, and you play a lot with you kind of, you know, peripheral and I'm just when you design that, was that part of the design, or did you guys discover that while you guys were shooting or in the edit? Where did you feel like you found that footing to kind of give it that, because that really turns and twists and gives it that air of mystery a little bit?
Well, you when you're writing it, I mean, this is my first time directing too, so it's like you're writing it and you have a certain thing in mind. But then when you actually get your locations and you get there, you know, sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you end up getting exactly what you want or how you saw it in your head. Other times you end up having to improvise on the moment, and sometimes you get something better than what was in your head. But there are so many elements, and at the end, when it all comes together, there is a certain amount of luck to it, no matter how much you sort of plan things out, because you never really know what you're going to get on the day. And then sometimes it's like you find a location that's perfect and then it falls through at the last minute and you have to improvise and figure something else out. But I always knew I wanted to shoot at 235, and I always knew I wanted to pace it very slowly and deliberately. So, you know, you set out with a certain plan and then you just kind of roll with what you get, but you always sort of try to keep that big picture that you had in mind.
And also, I think we got super lucky with our DP. Jose was, I mean, just an absolute rock star. Tyler would set up a shot and Jose would just, you know, nail it, bring it home.
And, you know, Jose is one of those, especially as a first-time filmmaker too, like literally all he would do is he would come up to me and he would go like, so what are we doing here? And I would be like, okay, this is a scene where Ryan wants this and Stan is trying to do this. And he would just be like, great. And he would go off and set it up and everything. And it was just like, you know, he was able to take so much off of my plate and just you know, with very little. So that really is invaluable to have, you know, a DP like Jose who really is on top of his game.
And he was looking out for us the whole time.
I mean, there's a lot of really good establishing wide shots here, and you do a lot of good mediums. Not a ton of cutaways, which I'm finding right now is the style. I've noticed a lot of filmmakers have kind of shied away from that. Was that kind of did you film a lot of cutaways, or was it in that they got chopped at the cutting room floor, or was it more you wanted to keep that pacing where it was, you know, very wide and frantic, and that's why there wasn't that element to it?
You know, I mean, I like very patient filmmaking. I like movies that, you know, have very deliberate frames and stuff like that. In terms of the cutaways, I mean, like we had one camera and 17 days, so there was no time to get any B-roll at all. All of the cutaways that you're seeing were gotten afterwards by somebody local out there who I basically called up and said, hey, we need B-roll. You know, I give you $400 and you drive around for a day and just pick up some B-roll for me, like of the city and send it back. So there's that too. Like I said, there's a lot of it is design, and a lot of it too is just like dumb luck and not having the resources or the time to drive around and shoot a lot of cutaways.
That doesn't mean that Tyler didn't want to go all Terrence Malick on us and shoot a cloud, because he did. We just didn't have time.
just 45 minutes of squirrels.
Are you sure we don't have 10 minutes for? Are you sure we don't have 10 minutes for these leaves? They're blowing the right direction, right?
Sitting around for 12 hours waiting for the leaves to form the right. All right, we got the leaves.
Golden light. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, for you, Adam, and Tyler too. You know, the action in this movie is very frantic. It's very fast, and it moves. And there's like almost a whole half hour of really strong, you know, movements and fighting and action. And for a tight budget and a tight time schedule, did you guys like rehearse those ahead of time so that you had some idea of where it was going to be in the blocking aspect of it? And because I can't imagine you could have done that 3 or 4 times and made it, you know, coherent or congruent to, you know, the way it ended up being. It does. I mean, you do move the camera, and there is cuts and everything in there, but it is. I would imagine that was a lot harder, and that was probably one of those times when you really had to nail it. So was there practice beforehand, or?
Yeah, you know, Paul Brody, our stunt coordinator. We had one day in the house. We sort of worked out the framework of everything. And I mean, I had met with her earlier, and we came up with a fight that absolutely had nothing to do with what we ended up with. Because when we got into the space, it changed. I mean, it just changed everything. So we had one day of sort of blocking it out or getting an idea of what the framework was going to be. And then on the day, a lot of it came to fruition while they were setting up the camera. And I know that, you know, one of the sequences, especially in that towards the end with Andy, we had a much longer sequence that we're like, no, just cut these bunch of moves. They're unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know, just get right to the floor, get right to this. Honestly, we're just really lucky I didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And pretty much every sequence that was an action sequence got cut down from what it originally was to like a very simplified version of it. Because you're just, you know, especially like you're moving from shooting all this dialogue stuff, moving into shooting action stuff. You're going from like 20 setups into 120 setups where you're just catching a few seconds at a time. So yeah, it's our first AD, Doug Martin, would just like on everything would just be like, how do we simplify it? How do we, you know, it's like,
and also I think that it really helped the movie too, because we're essentializing what's necessary. You know, you think that you need this, you know, Western-esque kind of like, you know, people falling off the banisters, you know, and people getting, you know, but you don't. It really is just the, you know, essentialize it, get to the absolute necessary points.
Yeah,
and then how you transition to it.
True of every aspect of filmmaking, because in the writing process too, like oftentimes your first pass at not a scene, but like a sequence of events or something might be like 5 pages long or something. But you know, when you come back and you rework it, eventually it comes down to 2 pages, and you realize you have 3 pages of excess. So it's the same thing, you know. It's like you always end up, you know, simplifying it down. But usually that's out of necessity, but it does usually end up creating a better end product.
There's a lot of natural light used in that especially that last fight sequence. That must have been trying to try and get that focused in on you know, everything else you were trying to do.
Well, yeah. Well,
and by natural light, you mean
yeah. The
I was going to say by natural light, you mean those really large lights that we had shining through the window. Right?
Because so yeah.
Don't give it away for everybody, man. Just say no. That we shot at a perfect time.
Oh my God, it was crazy.
The first half of it was shot in the day, and then it's like by the time like we were finishing it, it was like night. So they had these, you know, huge lights outside to replicate the daylight. You know, luckily the interior of that location was very sort of dark and sort of, you know, creepy to begin with. But yeah, it's.
That was a very, very long day.
2 days or 3 days or
2 days. But yeah, I mean, when we finished, we started in the morning, but when we finished, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was just like we got to a point where we're like, we just need to be done.
Yeah.
I go into the editing room and I'm basically like, because part of it was shot in the day and part of it was shot at night, I'm editing around like headlights coming, down the street in the darkness, because it's like, wait, no, what? Why are there like?
All the magic of movies.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention that really stands out is the music, and it sets tones. It moves scene to scene for you. It also helps you with the early montaging that you do in this film, and so within your scope of creating this, you mentioned earlier how you had an idea in your head of how it wanted to go. Was that always something that was in there, or is that something you added to give it that extra element in the editing?
No, that was something that was there. In fact, I knew what it was going to be before I even sat down to write the script. I knew what I wanted that music to be. I knew what the opening shot was going to be, and I wanted to do that montage. And I had a particular song in mind. It's a well-known song. We went after the rights for it and basically could not get them. So our composer Peter Fish basically, was able to kind of modify it and make it his own and base the entire film score off of it.
What do you like about characters like this, Adam? What gravitates you to kind of take something like this on that's so heavy and yet it also has kind of this commanding presence? You kind of get the little bit of the being the badass and a little bit of being the really vulnerable person. Was that what really drew you to this? Was that you had those dichotomies, or was it something else?
He was going to pay me to act. I mean, the reality is that's the first step.
Yeah.
I got an audition. I submitted myself on tape. I got the call back. I got the job. I was very excited. Then I got to read the script, and then I saw what it is that I got. And this kind of part doesn't come around often.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, after the initial I got a job, yes, it was all of that. The biggest sort of draw for the part was the humanity of it, that he is flawed. He is not some sort of Superman, Liam Neeson in Taken. I have no set of skills. I have a drive and a need to get some kind of resolution and fill a hole.
Yeah.
And, I think that everybody in their life can identify with that in some aspect of their life. And certainly, hopefully never this extreme, but whatever that is, you didn't get the job, you don't know why. You didn't, get the girl, you don't know why. You didn't get the guy, you don't know why. Whatever it is, that emptiness and wanting to have it filled, that's a universal human thing. And, Ryan goes about it in a slightly non-legal way. But eventually gets his catharsis. And then this is what I love about the film also is, and then you see, now what?
Yeah.
So now what happens? Life still continues, even when I think Wayne had said this in an earlier interview. It's like the difference between comedy and tragedy is where you stop the film.
Yeah.
And this is so beautiful because it shows you that, it stops after the great big moment, because now life has to continue and we have to deal with where we're at.
As artists, you tend to be the most critical of your performances and your work, and you've seen this probably dozens and dozens and thousands of times, and you've done so much talking about it and figuring it out, and you kind of go back and you go, oh yeah, I should have done this or should have done that. I should have cut here. I should have held this emotion a little bit longer. I want to know from each of you, though, not what any of that. I don't care about any of that. What I want to know is what you think you nailed.
Adam, you want to go first? Did I nail anything? I don't know if I nailed anything. You go first.
Okay. I'm gonna let Mr. Humble over here sit back while I praise his and laud his ability. He wrote a movie, he got it made, and he got it distributed. I can't tell you how many projects that never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
That never get past even the principal photography for whatever reason. So, whether it's luck, as he likes to say, or his sheer will and determination, he did something that almost 90%, that's not a real figure, but let's just say it, 90% of filmmakers, especially first-time filmmakers, can never do. So I'm going to say Goodbye Butterfly is you nailed it. For me, it was my Kramer sliding in after he's, no, that's not it. I'm sorry. You asked now for the thing that we don't like. It's my moment. I don't want to give anything away, certainly.
Yeah.
But it's that moment that you know which one I'm speaking of, which is the most real human emotional experience one can have. And it wasn't utzed. There wasn't going for the waterworks. It was just a real moment that I allowed to happen. Mm-hmm. And as an actor, those are few and far between, and they are golden. The only thing I wish is that it could have lingered a little longer.
I think the best thing about it is that it all came together. Like when we got into the editing room and put it together, and first time out, having such limited resources and such limited time, we only ended up needing one pickup shot. And it was one thing that we had kind of missed, where nobody was in it. It was just an object on the ground. So that made me happy.
Well, I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
Doesn't live action mean like live actors?
Mm-hmm.
Then I was thinking, why do they call the new Lion King movie live action? And it's like a CGI almost and no people.
Because the people in charge of that are not as smart as you, and neither am I. Okay, go to bed.
What do you love about independent film?
I can answer this. This is easy. There are no non-creatives involved in the decision making. Because look, I'm always I don't want to knock any particular kind of filmmaking or television making, but when you have non-creatives making creative decisions, it tends to lower the common denominator of who you're targeting. And it can get, what you can have is a watered down version of what it is you set out to make. And that I think is unfortunate or sad. I made a film where the initial film, there were 12 writers on it eventually. And the movie that was released was nothing like what was originally written. It had gone through so many changes. And that was because executives got involved and watered it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've been hired on some of those films to be that guy that rewrites the 15th draft. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
I bust Adam's balls a lot, but just because I like you. But no, that was a really good answer. I mean, I think that probably is the best thing about, like, I mean, look, I haven't ever made anything else, and I've never ventured out of the indie realm, but this was something that, from all the way from financing through the script, through principal, post, and distribution, like I was there guiding it every step of the way with absolutely no interference. That might be a luxury that, isn't something that you're able to keep, but hopefully.
Yeah. You never know. I guess it depends on the production you're on, but
depends on the budget and your own
true
personal clout. Like I'm sure David Fincher or Christopher Nolan get very little interference with massively budgeted projects. But
and then you realize that sometimes when those filmmakers that have had all that time, when they have been interfered with, when they get no interference, when they get to that level, then they really needed interference. They really needed somebody to tell them.
Sometimes interference is necessary. You see something, you're like, somebody should have stepped
really
in. And,